he stayed with the Prophet the entire time that the Prophet ﷺ was in Medina. So he would have been an adult by the time the Prophet ﷺ died. Anas is one of the great muhaddithun. He relates a lot of hadith. He benefited greatly from the Prophet. He becomes one of the great scholars of the Sahaba. One of the most beautiful things that he relates is that he said, I served the Prophet for 10 years, and he never said to me, if I omitted to do something, why didn't you do it? Or if I committed something I shouldn't have done, why did you do it? He never did that. One of the beautiful stories, when he was still a little boy, the Prophet came in and he said, could you go and do this and this in the market? And Anas said, no. And the Prophet ﷺ in the riwayat just says he smiled, and then he left the room. Now, that is so consistent with modern social science. The social sciences on raising children is pretty phenomenal, the things that have been done now. And a lot of it's not being used by people because it stays in places like Harvard. But they call that pattern disruption, because what children do when they say no is they want to see the reaction. They're like testing the waters. And so when the Prophet smiled, it's like he just didn't give this any reality. And then he left the room. When he came back, he said a little later, he came back and he said, did you go yet, Anas? He said, I'm going right now. And that's very consistent with modern social science about children, that the best way to get children to do things is not to force them to do things, but to use these, one of the techniques is, if you want your child to do something, give them a choice. Because if you just give them one thing, they'll say no. But if you say, look, would you rather do this or this? This is really a Hobson's choice. That's what they call it in English. Hobson's choice, yeah. There was a man who used to rent horses, and he can say you can have whatever horse you want as long as it's in the first stall. So that was called Hobson's choice. So in English literature, when you get a Hobson's choice, it's no choice at all.